There is a tree that has fed people for thousands of years, and today almost no one is planting it. Not because it stopped producing, not because it lost its value, but because it doesn't fit the modern system. Its fruit doesn't ship well, it doesn't look perfect on a store shelf, and it doesn't need constant care, chemicals, or intervention to survive. So it was quietly left behind. But in a world where crops are failing, weather is becoming unpredictable, and food systems are under pressure, this tree is still doing exactly what it has always done: producing, surviving, thriving. It's called jujube. And once you understand what this tree is capable of, it changes how you think about food. Jujube has been cultivated for over 4,000 years. It spread across Asia, the Middle East, and parts of Europe long before modern agriculture existed. It wasn't just grown as a food source, it was relied on in harsh climates, in poor soils, in places where other crops struggled or failed completely. Jujube continued to produce. The fruit itself is small, often compared to a date or an apple depending on when it's harvested. When fresh, it has a crisp bite, slightly sweet with a subtle tartness. As it dries, it becomes chewy, rich, and deeply sweet, earning it the nickname red date. But what made jujube valuable wasn't just taste, it was consistency. This is a tree that doesn't demand perfect conditions. It doesn't rely on ideal rainfall. It doesn't collapse under heat or drought. In fact, it prefers tough environments. Where other plants struggle to survive, jujube adapts. And it does it without needing constant human input, no intensive spraying, no fragile growing cycles, no dependence on highly controlled conditions, just growth, just production, year after year. So why don't we see it everywhere? Because modern agriculture didn't choose resilience. It chose uniformity. It chose transportability. It chose appearance. And jujube doesn't play by those rules. The modern food system is built around one key idea: everything has to survive the journey. Fruits are bred to look perfect, to last weeks in storage, to handle transport across countries or even continents. They're selected for shelf life, not for resilience. That's why most of the produce you see today is delicate. It requires controlled environments, precise watering schedules, chemical protection from pests and disease. Take those things away, and many of these crops fail quickly. Jujube is the opposite. It doesn't need protection in the same way. It doesn't depend on perfect timing, and it doesn't collapse when conditions change. This is a tree that can tolerate extreme heat, long periods without water, and soil that would be considered unusable for most crops. Once established, it becomes incredibly self-sufficient. Its roots dig deep. Its structure strengthens. Its need for intervention drops significantly. And while other fruit trees can be sensitive, jujube becomes more reliable over time. But here's the trade-off. The fruit doesn't handle long-distance shipping well. It bruises more easily than commercial varieties. It doesn't stay visually perfect for extended periods. And it doesn't fit neatly into standardized packaging systems. That alone is enough to remove it from large-scale agriculture. Because if it can't be shipped, it can't be sold the same way. So instead of adapting the system replaced the plant. And over time, jujube became something you rarely see, even though it never stopped producing. This is something that happens more often than most people realize. Plants aren't forgotten because they stopped working. They're forgotten because they don't fit the model. What makes jujube even more interesting is how little it asks for in return. This isn't a plant that needs constant attention. Once it's established, it becomes incredibly low maintenance. It can grow in dry conditions where irrigation is limited. It tolerates poor soils that would struggle to support other fruit trees. And it naturally resists many of the pests and diseases that affect more fragile crops. That means fewer inputs, less time, less cost, less effort, and yet it still produces. The tree itself is also surprisingly hardy. It can handle temperature swings, it can survive cold winters and hot summers, and it adapts to a wide range of environments once it's given time to root. This kind of resilience is becoming more important as weather patterns shift, as droughts become more common in some areas, as growing conditions become less predictable. Plants like jujube start to stand out. not because they're new, but because they've already proven they can handle instability. And then there's the fruit itself. Jujube isn't just durable, it's useful. It can be eaten fresh straight from the tree. It can be dried and stored for long periods. It can be used in teas, syrups, and traditional remedies. For centuries, it's been associated with supporting sleep, calming the body, and providing nourishment beyond simple calories. Whether or not you focus on the medicinal side, the versatility alone makes it valuable. Fresh food when it's in season, preserved food when it's not. A single tree offering multiple forms of use. That kind of flexibility is something modern systems often overlook because it doesn't scale easily. But on a personal level, or even a small local level, it makes a huge difference. So what does this actually mean today? It means we're surrounded by options that were never fully explored because they didn't fit into a system built for efficiency over resilience. Jujube is just one example. A tree that produces consistently, requires very little once established, and offers both fresh and storable food, yet remains mostly unknown in modern growing spaces. But that also creates an opportunity, because plants like this don't need to dominate large-scale agriculture to be valuable. They just need to be used, in a backyard, on a small piece of land, as part of a more diverse growing system. This isn't about replacing everything. It's about adding something that works even when other things don't. A tree that produces during tough seasons, a source of food that doesn't rely on constant inputs, a way to build stability into something that is often fragile, and maybe more importantly, it's a reminder that not everything worth growing fits neatly into a store. Some of the most reliable food sources are the ones that never needed the system to begin with. Jujube didn't disappear, it was just left behind, and now it's waiting to be used again.